The Zarkalon Empire was old and powerful. For thousands of years, they ruled many planets. Their technology was advanced. Their army was strong. No one ever said no to them. One day, they found a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. It was called Earth. To the Empire, it looked weak. The people were divided. The weapons were simple. The technology was behind. The Empire laughed. They still use fossil fuel, one commander said. They argue too much, another said. They fight each other. The Emperor smiled. Send a small fleet, only 5 destroyers. Test their strength. The fleet left within hours. 5 large warships flew toward Earth. Each ship was big as a city. Each had weapons that could destroy moons. The commander of the fleet was Lord Varnak, proud and cruel. He had destroyed 3 planets in the last year. As the ships reached Earth's orbit, they didn't see much. There were satellites, space stations, and small ships. Nothing looked dangerous. Lord Varnak opened a channel. This is the Zarkalon Empire. We are your rulers now. Do not resist. Give us control of your planet, or be destroyed. Silence. Then, a voice answered. It was calm. Human. This is Captain Raina Cole of the UNS Valor. You are in human space. Turn around, or we will respond. Lord Varnak laughed. You? Respond. With what? He gave the order. One of the 5 warships aimed at Earth's space station. Its weapon charge, glowing red. Before the weapon could fire, something happened. A flash of light. One of the Empire's ships exploded. The others were confused. What was that? Who fired? Another flash. A second Empire ship was gone. Alarms rang. Varnak shouted, "Find the target." But they couldn't see anything. Then on their radar, a small dot appeared, moving fast. It was the UNS Valor. It was smaller than the Empire's ships, sleek, black, silent, but deadly. The Valor fired again. A blue beam of light hit the 3rd warship. It broke in half. The Empire had lost 3 ships in just 1 minute. Varnak panicked. All ships, fire at will. Destroy that human craft. They fired. Missiles and beams filled the sky. But the Valor was too fast. It moved like a ghost. It dodged every attack. Then it fired a new weapon. A glowing sphere shot out and swallowed the 4th ship. Silence. Only 1 Empire ship remained. Varnak was frozen. His hands were shaking. The enemy wasn't using numbers. Just 1 ship. 1. He opened the channel again. What? What are you? He whispered. Captain Raina answered. We are humans. And that was only 1 unit. Varnak didn't reply. He ended the call. He knew he had made a mistake. Back at the Empire's homeworld, the High Council watched the video. 5 ships, destroyed by 1 human vessel. The room was silent. Fear filled their hearts. One of the elders stood up slowly. If that was only 1 unit, how many more do they have? No one answered. The Zarkalon Empire was in shock. 5 powerful warships were gone, destroyed by only 1 human ship. A small black ship that moved faster than anything they had ever seen. Its weapons were strange. Its speed was impossible. And worst of all, humans warned them calmly. That was only 1 unit. The High Council gathered in the Great War Chamber. Thick walls, glowing crystals, and cold silence filled the room. These leaders had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had defeated hundreds of alien races, but now they were afraid. The video from Lord Varnak's ship played again. The Valor, small but deadly, moved like a shadow. The destruction was clean, fast, without mercy. The video ended. The room stayed silent. Finally, Elder Threx spoke. This cannot be real. 1 human ship destroyed our fleet. General Rahl shook his head. It is real. Our sensors confirm it. No tricks. No help. Just one human unit. Another general stood. Her name was Zeleth. That ship used technology we don't understand. Their energy weapons, their speed, even their shields. It's far ahead of ours. The Emperor's voice was deep and heavy. How? Earth was supposed to be weak. They were fighting each other, divided. Zeleth nodded slowly. That is what we thought. But now we see the truth. Humans may fight each other, but when they unite, they are dangerous. General Rahl added, we don't know how many ships like the Valor they have. But if that was only one unit, then we may be facing a larger hidden army. The room grew colder. Elder Threx looked nervous. Then we must know more. We must study humans closely. The Emperor agreed. Send a spy to Earth. Quiet. Invisible. We need to know what else they are hiding. A shadow moved from the back of the room. It was Agent Nyrex, the Empire's best spy. He had stolen secrets from over 20 planets. He never failed. I will go, Nyrex said. I will learn their secrets. The council nodded. You must not be seen, said the Emperor. Find out how many ships they have, how strong they are, and most of all, are they preparing for war? Nyrex bowed. Yes, my Emperor. 3 days later, Agent Nyrex entered human space in a small cloaked ship. It was invisible to radar. It moved silently through the dark. He stayed far from Earth at first. He scanned human networks, listened to radio waves, watched satellite feeds. He was surprised. Humans were everywhere. On the Moon, on Mars, even floating in stations near Jupiter. They were building. Factories in space, training centers underground, large stations on asteroids. But what shocked him more was how humans lived. They were not the same. So many languages, so many cultures. They fought, they argued, but still, they worked together. Nyrex whispered to himself, they are not united, but they are connected. He moved closer to Earth. He saw military bases, war games, training drills, children learning how to fly ships, old men teaching combat tactics. Even civilians knew how to survive in space. This is not a weak race, Nyrex said. This is a race always preparing for war. Then something strange happened. His ship's screen blinked. One word appeared, welcome. Nyrex froze. He hadn't touched anything. Another message appeared, we see you. Panic filled him. How? My ship is cloaked. He tried to fly away. Too late. A human patrol ship appeared behind him, fast and silent like the Valor. A calm voice came from the human ship. Agent Nyrex, you've been watched since you entered our space. Please prepare to board. Nyrex had no choice. He was caught. Back on Earth, Captain Reyna stood in a dark room. A screen showed Nyrex being led through a hallway. She smiled. Let the Empire know, she said. We're not just ready. We've been watching them too. Agent Nyrex sat quietly in the cold, dark room. His hands were bound, and his face was grim. The human guards had taken him easily. He had underestimated them. They were everywhere, watching, listening, waiting. He had thought he could sneak in, gather information, and leave. But now he was a prisoner. The door opened, and Captain Reyna Cole walked in. She was calm, confident, and deadly. She looked at Nyrex, her eyes sharp. So, you're the famous spy from the Zarkalon Empire, she said, her voice smooth. Tell me, what did you expect to find here? Nyrex said nothing. He had been trained to keep secrets, even under the harshest conditions. But Reyna didn't seem to care about his silence. She sat down across from him, her eyes never leaving his. I know what you're thinking, she continued. You thought Earth was weak. You thought we were divided and unprepared. But now you know the truth. Nyrex's heart raced. He had learned much about humans during his time in their space. They were more than just survivors. They were builders. They had plans, and they had technology. Things the Empire had never imagined. It wasn't just the Valor. There were many ships, and they were ready for war. They were ready for everything. Captain Reyna leaned forward. You've seen our cities in space, our factories, our soldiers, but what you haven't seen is our true power. Nyrex blinked. You are just a small planet. We can crush you. Reyna smiled softly. You think that. But we're not one planet. We're a species, and when we unite, we're unstoppable. Nyrex tried to keep his focus. You don't have the power. Your technology is far behind ours. Reyna stood and walked toward a wall. A large screen lit up, showing images of Earth, of cities, factories, military bases, and ships. But then the images changed. The screen zoomed in on something strange. A massive structure beneath Mars, a fleet of ships, not human-made, but clearly alien in design. They were silent, hidden, waiting. Nyrex's eyes widened. What is that? Reyna turned, her voice cold. That's the real question, isn't it? What do you think you've been spying on? This is our secret. The Empire has no idea what's coming. She paused, watching his reaction. You think we're weak because we're small. But the truth is, we've been preparing for this moment. For centuries. Nyrex's mind raced. This was impossible. Earth had no resources for such a fleet. They had no history of advanced technology like the Zarkalon Empire. And yet, here they were, with ships the Empire had never seen before. Ships capable of traveling across galaxies. Ships older than the Empire itself. Reyna continued, this fleet is not human. It's older than your Empire. It's a gift from a civilization long gone. And it's ours now. Nyrex was stunned. You stole it. Reyna shook her head. We didn't steal it. We earned it. It's ours because we were smart enough to find it. And we were strong enough to keep it hidden. She turned off the screen and walked closer to Nyrex, her expression hardening. You're part of a dying empire. You think you can take our planet, our technology, our future. But you don't know what you're up against. Nyrex swallowed hard. He had never faced an enemy like this. Earth wasn't just another planet to be conquered. It wasn't just a weak species to be crushed. They had plans. They had secrets. Reyna's voice grew quiet. We've been waiting for this. And now that you've seen the truth, you'll tell your empire something important. We are not afraid of you. We are not afraid of anyone. Nyrex was silent. There was nothing to say. The Empire would never understand. They would never believe it until it was too late. I'll never tell you anything, Nyrex said, his voice low. Your secret will die with me. Reyna smiled again. I don't think so. You're not leaving here with that secret. The question is, will you leave here alive? She paused, letting the words hang in the air. Nyrex stared at her, but inside, he was terrified. The Empire was too late. Humans had already won. They had hidden their power. They had kept their secrets. And now, they were ready to take on the Zarkalon Empire itself. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. The spy had been captured. The humans were more powerful than anyone had guessed. The Empire was on the brink of a war they had never imagined. As Captain Reyna stood in front of Nyrex, she knew this was just the beginning. Earth wasn't just ready for battle. Earth had already won. Nyrex sat in the cold, dimly lit room, his hands still bound. The human guards had left him alone with Captain Reyna Cole. He had never felt more trapped in his life. His mind was racing, his thoughts tangled in fear and disbelief. The humans had something they couldn't explain. Something old, far older than the Empire itself. Reyna stood in front of him, her gaze unflinching. She knew the effect the images had on Nyrex. She knew he was terrified, but she didn't care about his fear. She cared about sending a message, one the Zarkalon Empire would never forget. You've seen it, Nerex, Reyna said, her voice calm and controlled. You've seen the fleet under Mars. You've seen our strength. But what you don't understand is, we've been hiding it for centuries. Nerex said nothing. He couldn't understand. Mars was a dead world, or so he had been told. There was nothing there, just dust and ruins. Yet beneath the surface, the humans had an army, a fleet, ready to destroy any who dared challenge them. Reyna continued, walking slowly in front of him. The Zarkalon Empire is old, but you don't know how old the things we found are. These ships, they were here before your empire ever even thought of reaching the stars. They're not from this galaxy. Nyrex's eyes widened. Not from this galaxy. Reyna nodded. No, these ships are from a long-lost civilization, older than your empire. They traveled through the stars for thousands of years before they disappeared, and when we found them, we didn't just steal them, we learned from them. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle in. The Zarkalon Empire isn't the first to try to conquer us. You won't be the last. Nyrex could barely breathe. The ship he had seen earlier, under Mars, wasn't just a fleet. It was something far more dangerous. And the humans weren't just building ships. They were unlocking secrets. Secrets that the Empire could never hope to understand. Reyna looked at him, her expression hardening. You think we're the weak ones. You think we're divided. But you've seen the truth. The humans don't need to fight in the same way your empire does. We don't need to conquer with numbers. We'll do it with knowledge. Nyrex shook his head. This is impossible. The Zarkalon Empire will crush you. You're just hiding behind old technology. It will break. Reyna's eyes flashed with cold fire. That's where you're wrong. The technology doesn't make us strong. Our strength comes from something else. Our ability to adapt. Our ability to evolve. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Nyrex could see the truth in her eyes. Earth was not what it seemed. It was not just a small, weak planet. It was a force waiting to rise. And the Zarkalon Empire had already made the mistake of underestimating them. On the surface of Mars, deep beneath the red dust, an ancient underground base hummed to life. For centuries, it had been silent, forgotten by time. But now, after thousands of years, it was waking up. Slowly, methodically. The humans had found it, buried beneath layers of rock and sand. They had dug and searched, finding only fragments of forgotten technology. But now, they were ready to use it. In the dark, underground chambers, the first of the alien ships powered on. Ancient engines roared to life, their cold, metal hulls glowing faintly. The ships weren't built for speed. They weren't built for combat, at least not in the way the Empire's ships were. They were built for something much more dangerous, something the Empire had never faced. In the control rooms, humans worked quickly. They activated the ships, learning their systems, using their knowledge to adapt the technology to their needs. The fleet under Mars wasn't just a collection of warships. It was a powerful symbol, a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The humans weren't just learning to control the ships. They were learning to speak with them. Deep inside the base, a group of engineers stood around a large control panel. On the screen in front of them, the alien language flickered. The words were strange, but they were beginning to understand. It was the key to unlocking the true power of these ships. One of the engineers, a woman named Dr. Clara Hunt, stared at the screen in amazement. We're close. If we can unlock the command systems, we can control the entire fleet. Another engineer, a young man named Adam, leaned in. But what if the ships have been waiting for something? What if they were meant to be activated by someone else? Dr. Hunt's eyes narrowed. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to focus on controlling them. We need to be ready when the Empire comes. Adam hesitated, but if the Empire finds out what we have, we'll never be ready. Dr. Hunt turned to face him, her voice firm. We don't have time to be afraid. If we don't act now, The Empire will destroy everything we've worked for. Outside, the ships slowly began to rise, one by one. The ground trembled as they lifted off from their hidden base, their engines glowing a bright blue. The fleet wasn't just a symbol of power. It was a promise. And the Empire was about to learn that the humans weren't the weak ones. They were the ones who had been waiting, hidden in plain sight. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. The Empire had underestimated them. They had thought Earth was just a small, weak planet. But now, the humans had shown them the truth. The game had changed. The Zarkalon Empire was in chaos. News of the secret fleet beneath Mars had reached the Emperor's ears. The Council was in panic. The human race had hidden something powerful, something ancient. It wasn't just their technology that was advanced. It was the power they had unlocked. The Empire had made a grave mistake. Emperor Zarthos paced in his grand chamber. His eyes burned with anger. How could we have missed this? How could we have underestimated them? He growled. One of his generals, General Rahl, stood at attention. My Emperor, we have no choice. The humans are a threat now. We cannot wait any longer. If we don't strike first, they will attack us. Zarthos turned, his eyes sharp and calculating. Yes, strike first. We will crush them before they can unleash whatever weapons they have. Send the entire fleet to Earth. Destroy their cities. Leave nothing behind. Rahl nodded. At once, my Emperor. On Earth, Captain Reyna Cole stood in the command room of the UNS Valor. Her face was calm, but inside, her heart was racing. The Zarkalon Empire was preparing to attack. She knew they would come. They always struck first. The screens in front of her lit up with red alerts. An enormous fleet was entering human space. There was no time to waste. The battle was coming. Prepare for combat, Reyna ordered. Her voice was steady, but her mind was sharp. She had no doubt that the humans were ready. They had been ready for this moment for years, but even she knew the Empire was strong. It wouldn't be easy. Captain, we've detected their fleet. It's massive. They're heading straight for Earth, said Commander Locke, a trusted officer. Reyna nodded. We know they'll come with everything they've got, but we won't back down. Activate the fleet. It's time to show them what Earth can do. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the military was in full alert. Cities around the world were preparing for war. From North America to Asia, Europe to Africa, every nation was ready. It wasn't just the military that was prepared. Civilians too had trained for this day. Earth had a plan. A backup plan. And now, it was their turn to fight. In the skies, human warships, both large and small, took to the air. Ships that had once been designed for peaceful exploration were now armed with powerful weapons. The ships under Mars were ready to join the battle. They had been waiting, hidden, and now the time had come to reveal their power. Back in space, the Zarkalon fleet moved toward Earth. Thousands of warships, each one larger than anything the humans had ever built, cut through the darkness. They were coming with all their might. It was their only chance to crush humanity before they could strike back. Lord Varnak, the commander of the fleet, stood at the front of the ships, his eyes burning with hatred. He had been humiliated by the humans before, but now he would take revenge. He would destroy Earth, and no one would stop him. The fleet moved closer. They could already see the blue planet. Soon, they would be in range. On the UNS Valor, Reyna and her team watched the incoming fleet with calm determination. They knew the battle was coming, and they knew that winning wouldn't be easy, but they had a secret weapon. The fleet under Mars was ready. Get ready, everyone, Reyna said, her voice steady. This is it. We fight for Earth. We fight for our future. The Valor's crew moved quickly, each person working in sync to prepare for battle. The ship powered up, its weapons systems coming online. The human fleet, including the ships from Mars, joined them in formation. They were ready. As the Zarkalon fleet neared Earth, Varnak's ships began to charge their weapons. The battle was about to begin. But just before the first shot was fired, something strange happened. The human ships didn't wait. They moved, faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. They darted in every direction, avoiding the first wave of missiles and laser beams. The Empire had never faced anything like this before. "Fire," Varnak ordered. His ships unleashed everything they had. Beams of energy, missiles, and plasma blasts filled the space between them and the human fleet. The humans responded with fire of their own, but it wasn't just their weapons that made the difference. It was the speed, the agility. The humans were everywhere, dodging, attacking, and countering at a pace that stunned the Zarkalon fleet. One of the Empire's warships exploded as a human missile found its weak point. Another ship was hit by a barrage of plasma fire, and soon it was drifting in space, useless. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. On the surface of Earth, the sky was filled with ships, both human and alien. Missiles streaked across the atmosphere, and explosions shook the ground. But the humans weren't afraid. They were ready. Captain Reyna stood in the command room, watching the battle unfold. Her heart raced, but her mind was clear. The Zarkalon Empire had made their move. Now it was time for humanity to show them that they were not to be underestimated. The human fleet moved like lightning, attacking from all angles, using every trick in the book. They were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The battle raged on for hours, but the tide was slowly turning. The Zarkalon fleet, once so confident, was now in disarray. Ships were being destroyed, one by one. Their commanders were confused. They had never faced an enemy like this. And then, in the heart of the Empire's fleet, Lord Varnak's flagship was hit. A direct hit. The ship rocked violently as its shields flickered. For a moment, it seemed as if the Zarkalon fleet might break. But it wasn't over yet. The Empire would fight until the end. The battle in space raged on. The once confident Zarkalon fleet, powerful and overwhelming, was now scattered. The humans were faster, more unpredictable, and far better prepared than the Empire had ever imagined. Every strike from the Zarkalon fleet was met with an unexpected counter, every move anticipated. The tables had turned. But the Empire wasn't ready to give up yet. They were determined to crush humanity, no matter the cost. On the UNS Valor, Captain Reyna Cole stood at the command center, her eyes glued to the monitors. The human fleet was still holding strong, but she knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The Zarkalon fleet was massive, and they had more firepower than the humans could handle in a prolonged fight. Reyna's mind raced. She needed to end this, and she needed to do it now. "Commander Locke," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. "How are we looking?" Locke glanced at his screen. "We're holding steady, Captain, but we've lost some smaller ships. The Empire's firepower is overwhelming. We need reinforcements." Reyna clenched her fists. The reinforcements were still too far out. The fleet under Mars had provided an edge, but there were only so many of them. The Empire was simply too large. She needed a plan, a game changer. Then an idea came to her, a dangerous idea. An idea that could turn the tide, but one that could also cost them everything. "Get me a secure channel to the fleet under Mars," she ordered. Locke immediately complied, opening the communication link. A few seconds later, the image of Dr. Clara Hunt appeared on the screen. Her face was serious, her eyes tired but determined. "Captain Cole," Dr. Hunt said, "what's the status?" "The Zarkalon fleet is stronger than we thought," Reyna replied, her voice steady. "We need to take out their command ship. If we destroy their flagship, the rest of their fleet will fall apart. But we don't have the firepower to do it directly." Clara's expression darkened. "What do you have in mind?" "We're going to use the alien ships beneath Mars," Reyna said. "I want you to prepare the fleet for a direct assault. Get the command ship's coordinates. We're going to board it." Dr. Hunt's eyes widened. "That's insane. You're asking us to board their flagship." You do realize we're outnumbered by at least 5-1. I know, Reyna said. But if we don't do this, we're done. We don't have time to wait for reinforcements. We need to end it now. We take down their flagship, and their fleet will collapse. They'll lose their leader, and the rest of them will panic. There was a long pause before Clara spoke again. Understood, Captain. We'll be ready. Reyna's heart pounded. She knew this was their best chance, but it was also the most dangerous. There was no going back once they launched this mission. If they failed, the humans would lose everything. Back in space, the Zarkalon fleet continued its assault, but something was different now. The human ships were no longer running. They weren't just defending anymore. They were attacking, fiercely and without hesitation. The Zarkalon ships had been taken by surprise, and for the first time in hours, the Empire's fleet seemed to hesitate. Lord Varnak, still in his flagship, watched in disbelief. How are they doing this? He muttered under his breath. They should have fallen by now. A communication officer looked up from the console. Commander, we've lost contact with several of the smaller ships. There's something happening on the ground. We're being attacked from all sides. Varnak slammed his fist on the console. Impossible. They can't. Just then, the enemy's flagship, the UNS Valor, shifted position. It broke through the chaos, moving directly toward Varnak's ship. But this wasn't just a daring attack. This was part of something much bigger. Reyna's voice came over the fleet's communication system, calm and unwavering. This is Captain Reyna Cole of the UNS Valor. We've targeted your flagship. We're coming for you. The human fleet moved in as one, but they weren't aiming for all of the Zarkalon ships. They were targeting the flagship. With everything they had, they launched a coordinated assault that sent waves of missiles and energy blasts toward Varnak's ship. The Zarkalon fleet tried to retaliate, but the humans were already moving faster. It was a distraction, a diversion, and it worked. As the flagship of the Zarkalon Empire began to buckle under the relentless attack, a group of elite human soldiers prepared to board the ship. They were the best of the best, handpicked for this mission. And they were ready for anything. Captain Reyna Cole led them herself. Dressed in specialized combat gear, her face was set in a hard line. This wasn't just about winning the battle anymore. This was personal. With a final burst of speed, the human assault ships docked with the Zarkalon flagship. The soldiers, armed and ready, flooded the corridors, pushing through the alien ship's defenses. They fought their way toward the bridge, determined to take down the heart of the Empire's command. Back in space, the human fleet was making progress. The Zarkalon ships were falling apart, their systems crashing under the pressure of the assault. The Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to fight, and now they were paying the price. The UNS Valor, its engines roaring, remained in position, covering the attack on the flagship. But the battle was not over. There was still one more fight to win. On the Zarkalon flagship, Captain Reyna and her team pushed forward, cutting through enemy forces with precision. They reached the bridge, where Lord Varnak awaited them. He stood, towering over them, his eyes burning with rage. "You think you can defeat the Empire?" he hissed. "You are nothing. You will all die here." Reyna's eyes locked with his. "Not today, Varnak. Today, your empire falls." With one final strike, the human soldiers took down the commander of the Zarkalon Empire. The flagship's control systems immediately began to fail. The Zarkalon fleet, leaderless and in disarray, began to retreat. The battle was over. The humans had won. The battle was over. The Empire's fleet had been shattered, and their once mighty flagship was now drifting in space, lifeless. The Zarkalon forces had retreated, scattered and broken. The humans had done the impossible. Captain Reyna Cole stood on the bridge of the UNS Valor, her face calm but filled with exhaustion. She had led humanity through the darkest hour, and now the light was beginning to break through. The victory was theirs, but the war wasn't over. It had only just begun. "Captain, we've received communications from Earth," Commander Locke said, his voice full of relief. "The major cities are safe. The Empire's invasion forces have retreated." Reyna nodded, but she wasn't ready to celebrate yet. She knew the Zarkalon Empire would be back. The battle they had just won was a huge blow, but it was only the first step. There was still much to be done. "Prepare a transmission to all human fleets," she ordered. "It's time to let them know we're not just defending ourselves anymore. We're taking the fight to the Empire." Across the galaxy, the humans celebrated their victory. The Zarkalon Empire's forces had been pushed back, their greatest fleet destroyed. For the first time in centuries, the humans felt a glimmer of hope. On Earth, people poured into the streets, cheering and celebrating. The air was filled with the sounds of victory. But it wasn't just the end of a battle. It was the start of something far bigger. The humans had proven they could fight. They had shown the universe that they were not just a small, weak species. They were strong. And now, they had a chance to take back what had been lost. The news reached every corner of the planet, from the tallest skyscrapers to the most remote villages. The message was clear. The humans had won. They had fought back the might of the Zarkalon Empire. And now, they were ready to rise. Back in space, the human fleet was regrouping. They had destroyed the Zarkalon fleet, but Reyna knew that the Empire wasn't done. The Zarkalon leadership would regroup, rearm, and come again. But this time, things would be different. "We've won the battle," Reyna said, addressing her crew. "But we haven't won the war. We need to be ready for what comes next. The Zarkalon Empire is a force, but they're also weak. They're divided, and that's our advantage." Reyna turned to face the crew, a sense of purpose in her voice. "It's time we stop being on the defensive. It's time we take the fight to them. Our victory here has sent a message to the galaxy. Now we make sure the Empire never forgets who they're dealing with." Back on Mars, the ancient fleet beneath the surface was coming to life. The technology the humans had unlocked wasn't just a weapon. It was a message to the universe. The ships powered up, their ancient engines humming as they prepared for their next mission. These ships, which had been hidden for so long, were now ready to fight for humanity's future. Dr. Clara Hunt watched the screens with a sense of awe. "We've barely scratched the surface of what we found," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "These ships, this technology, it's just the beginning. The Zarkalon Empire thought they had power, but we've just unlocked the greatest weapon in the galaxy." The fleet under Mars wasn't just a defensive force. It was an offensive one, and it was ready to strike. Lord Varnak, the Zarkalon commander who had once been so confident, sat alone in the darkened command room of his new flagship. The Zarkalon Empire was reeling. The loss of their fleet had been catastrophic, and now the humans were gaining strength every day. He had failed, but he would not let the Empire fall. He would find a way to rebuild. He would find a way to destroy humanity once and for all. "We underestimated them," he muttered to himself. "We thought they were weak, but they're not. They've proven that they can fight. And now we must make them pay for their defiance." The Empire would come back. Varnak knew it. The Empire was ancient, strong, and capable of rebuilding. But they had learned a powerful lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. On Earth, the leaders of the world met to discuss what came next. They had survived the first wave of the Zarkalon Empire's invasion, but the cost had been high. Cities had been destroyed, lives lost. But there was hope now. The humans had found strength they didn't know they had. They had united against a common enemy, and that unity had made them stronger. "We've won," President Ayla Patterson said, her voice filled with determination. "But this is only the beginning. The Zarkalon Empire may have retreated, but they will come again. We have to be ready. We can't just rely on our military strength. We have to build alliances. We have to spread our message to the galaxy." The leaders agreed. Earth would take a new path. They would not be a passive species anymore. They would stand up to the Empire and to anyone who threatened their future. They would forge new alliances, seek new technologies, and fight to make sure no one would ever again underestimate humanity. "We are no longer a target," President Patterson continued. "We are a force, and we will fight until the Empire is no more." In the vastness of space, a new era was beginning. Humanity had proven that they were not just survivors. They were warriors. And now, with the ancient fleet under Mars, with their new strength and unity, the humans would take the fight to the stars. They would seek out the Zarkalon Empire wherever it hid and show the galaxy that humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. The Zarkalon Empire may have thought they could crush Earth, but they had made the mistake of underestimating the strength of a species that had survived against all odds. Now the humans would rise, not just to defend themselves, but to become the dominant force in the galaxy. The battle had only just begun.